What is going on, everybody? Welcome to That Franchise Guy. I'm Marcus Whitman. We've had a fun year of predictions in a year in the NFL that has been very hard to predict with all these injuries. I would say my predictions have held up pretty well. It's time to keep that going here with my complete 2018 NFL playoff predictions. Last year's were great. We actually started a perfect 8-8 until both the Packers and Steelers lost in the conference championship last season. So hoping to be just as accurate, if not more, again this year. We're going to get right into it here, going in order of how these games are going to play out. So starting with the Titans visiting the Chiefs. Titans, a lot of hype coming into this year. They sneak into the playoffs at 9-7, do not win that AFC South. Minus 22 point differential. I gave the MVP to Jarrell Casey. I thought this team's defense was better than its offense this year. Casey by far the best player on that defense. And as you can see there, we had a playoff prediction of 9-7. It was low at the time. A lot of people thought this Titans team was going to win 11 or 12 games and be a conference contender here. I don't think that's the case. We'll talk about this game in a second. The Chiefs go 10-6. They win the division. Plus 76 point differential. Alex Smith having a career resurgence here at the end of his career. I also had the Chiefs going 10-6. So in this first game, we kind of nailed these two. I also had the Chiefs losing in the second round. So if you couldn't tell by my tone here, I'm going to be taking the Chiefs in this game. They are an 8-point favorite. The Chiefs have actually been pretty hot lately. I think they've really recaptured some of that early season momentum that they had. I think they're coming in pretty hot into the playoffs. They're pretty healthy. I know Pat Mahomes came in and started. It's not going to be him. It'll be Alex Smith. They'll be able to get the run game going, playing pretty solid defense. I think they're going to win this game pretty handily, actually. So I'm giving it to the Chiefs 33-14. Now, the Madden simulation didn't agree with me. I'll be simulating every game here. Madden actually has Tennessee winning this game 27-11. On to our next game here. We've got the Falcons sneaking into the playoffs at 10-6, kind of similar to what they did last year, visiting the Rams, who have totally surprised this year. So the Falcons, a positive 38 point differential. I gave the MVP to Julio Jones. It was a pretty tough pick. No one has really stood out on this Falcons team. I think Keanu Neal on that defense has been great. Those were really the two options I could think of. And then the preseason prediction, I had them at 9-7. I had them having a pretty disappointing year, which I think they have had. And then as for the Rams, totally breaking out, and I was pretty high on the Rams coming in. I had them going 9-7, and they even exceeded that. Obviously, Jared Goff, much better than pretty much everyone assumed he would be. The plus 149 point differential, that's one of the best in the entire league. This offense is explosive, but they also have the best defensive player in the league on their side in Aaron Donald. So this team is pretty furious out there. I actually gave the MVP to Sean McVay. Definitely could be Todd Gurley as well. Todd Gurley is my vote for NFL MVP. But just what Sean McVay has been able to do for this team has been remarkable. He has instantly become a top 5 coach in the entire league, and he's only 30. So good for Sean McVay, good for the Rams, good for Los Angeles. As far as this game goes, it is a very high over-under at 48.5. The Falcons are the team with the playoff experience, but I just don't think the Falcons are coming in very hot. Last year they came in hot and healthy. This year they're coming in healthy, but not necessarily on a roll. Whereas the Rams have been able to turn it on really all season long. So I'm going to go with the Rams in this game. I think it's going to be a good game, a competitive, high-scoring game. If this was a low-scoring one, I'd be pretty surprised, at least on the Rams side of the ball. So I'm going to go Rams 34-27. And again, Madden completely disagreeing here. Madden went with the Falcons in the end, 42-21. That playoff experience could matter here. But really just playing at home, not having to deal with a first-round bye, which also I think is a big deal for a team that doesn't have playoff experience. I think you want to keep that momentum going. So I'm going Rams 34-27. On to the next game, Bills at Jags, the stunner game. The Bills, who everyone thought was going to be competing for a number 1 overall pick after trading away some of their best players, Sammy Watkins, Marcel Darius in the middle of the year, Ronald Darby. They get that culture football going. Gotta love to see that. They sneak into the playoffs at 9-7, thanks to Joe Flacco and the Ravens laying an egg last week. But the Buffalo Bills, minus 57 point differential, not necessarily impressive. Gave the MVP there to Tre'Davious White, the rookie corner, who's been fantastic for that defense. I had them going 4-12, and like I said, this was high at the time. I thought they were going to be a little more competitive than some people thought. No way did I think they'd be making the playoffs. And then on the other side, the Jaguars, by far the biggest surprise of the year. If you remember, I was incredibly low on this Jags team. Definitely my worst call of the year, right there with having Denver being one of the best teams in the league. But other than that, did pretty well this year. I gave the MVP to Calais Campbell, and I did that because coming into the year, I thought this team was going to be pretty bad because I didn't buy the pass rush. I bought the secondary and the linebackers. I did not think they'd be able to get after the quarterback very well. Calais Campbell had something to say about that. The highest rated player on this team, according to PFF, and definitely my MVP above Jalen Ramsey. So yeah, I had them going 1-15. And when I said that, I kind of admitted that was a little ridiculous, but regardless, I was way off on this team who has gotten by with an elite defense, a terrible offense, and frankly, a very ridiculously easy division and schedule and conference. This game's gonna be a doozy. It could definitely be up there for one of the lower rated playoff games. I know we've had matchups in the past with injured backup quarterbacks, but this is right there with those games. So I'm gonna take the Jags. They're playing at home. If this was in Buffalo, no doubt I'd be going with Buffalo. But the Bills, not the same team on the road. The Jags, that defense is just going to be swarming. I'm going a very low-scoring game here as the Jags are favorites in an over-under of 40 points. I'm going to take the Jags 13-9. And then we've got our last game of the first round here. The Panthers at 11-5, a pretty solid season for the Panthers. Just kind of all-around balanced on this team. Plus 36 on the year for the point differential. I gave the MVP to Darrell Williams, the right tackle who came out last year as a second-round pick, was not really projected to be a big impact on this team, but really solidified the right side of that line. This offensive line was bad in 2016, so that was big to get him going. Preseason, I thought this team was going to be solid. I think they definitely benefited from the rest of the league kind of falling apart. I think if this season played out 100 times, the Panthers would regress around that 500 mark. I think they're a solid team, but I don't think they're necessarily a Super Bowl contending team. And then as for the Saints, we all kind of had some good expectations, I think, as we do for the Saints every year because of Drew Brees. And I said in their preseason breakdown that I could see them being a conference championship contender. I could see them going to the Super Bowl, and I could see them winning 4 games. This team's been very up and down the last few years, but a totally different team this year. A historic draft class, honestly. You take Marshawn Lattimore, who is one of the best rookie corners we've ever seen. You grab Ryan Ramczyk, who's already one of the best tackles in the NFL. Both those guys first-round picks. Obviously, we know what Alvin Kamara has brought to the table as the likely rookie of the year. And then kind of an underrated pick as well, Marcus Williams in the second round, who's been starting safety and been pretty solid there. Really good draft class that has led and allowed this team to really break out this season. All that said, I gave the MVP actually to Cameron Jordan, who I think when all is said and done is the biggest reason that defense is able to succeed. I'm a big advocate of pass rush leading to good defenses, and Cameron Jordan, one of the best pass rushers in the league. So as far as this game is concerned, I'm going to take the Saints. I just want the Drew Brees factor, the home field. They are 6-point favorites in this game. It's supposed to be pretty high scoring. I think it's going to be an under game. I'm going to go 23-16 Saints. So here's how the bracket looks as we've advanced through this round. So in round 2, we're going to have the Saints going to Nick Foles' Eagles, the Chiefs going to the Patriots, the Jags visiting Pittsburgh, and the Rams going to US Bank in Minnesota. So the first game this week will be New Orleans at Philly. We already broke down New Orleans. As for Philly, this was probably my best call of the year, was Carson Wentz solidifying himself as a top elite quarterback. That injury just devastating. I was so excited to see Carson Wentz and this Eagles team that was the best team in the NFL at that point. Much less punch now with Nick Foles in there. You see the point differential was awesome, and we had predicted this team to go 12-4 and lose in the conference championship, which was pretty bold back in August when they were actually the least favored team on Bovada to win this division. So they still have a solid defense, but it has some holes in that secondary, and their offense is still pretty good as well, but now they have a hole at quarterback, and you're playing against Drew Brees, a dominant run game and a decent defense. It's going to be a tough game here for the Eagles. I think it's going to be competitive, but I think the Saints pull away late in the fourth quarter. I think Drew Brees is just going to capitalize on any mistakes that Nick Foles is going to make on the other side of the ball. Madden actually sort of agrees in that it will be a close-ish game, but Madden had Philadelphia pulling away at the end, last-second field goal, giving Philly the win. But again, I'm taking New Orleans 27-17 in this game. So next we have the Chiefs visiting the Patriots. It was the opener to the NFL season. It was a great game. The Chiefs won and kind of broke out. We saw Kareem Hunt, and we saw Travis Kelce dominate, Tyreek Hill, all these big pieces for the Chiefs. But in that game, Eric Berry got hurt, really changing the course of the season for the Chiefs, knowing that that defense was going to take a step back without one of the best defensive players in the entire league. And in this matchup with Gronk involved, I think it's going to be a game changer compared to the first time these teams met. You know, the Patriots just continuing to roll. They're a great team, don't get me wrong. Definitely added to the fact that the AFC is miserable. They haven't had to really beat anyone other than Pittsburgh, which they did take care of. I'm definitely going to start seeing more competition here in the playoffs, but that plus 162 point differential, obviously Tom Brady, the MVP. I had them going 14-2 and losing in the Super Bowl. So right in stride with how their season has projected. As far as this game is concerned, I'm going to take the Patriots in a high-scoring game. I do think the Chiefs are going to be able to score, just because I think that offense has looked real good the last few weeks. I think that'll continue to go, but 33-31, maybe a last-second score for the Chiefs to make it look a little closer than it should have been, but a good game nonetheless. And we actually had agreement from Madden as well, as they had New England winning 30-11 in this game. So then we got the surprise Jags visiting the Steelers. 13-3 for the Steelers, right in stride with where I had them going this year. Plus 98 point differential. They should be getting Antonio Brown back this game. I gave Ben Roethlisberger the MVP, however, just because he did complete the season, and you can't really have Antonio Brown's numbers without Big Ben. As far as this game's concerned, we did see this matchup earlier this year, and the Jags actually won in Pittsburgh. But Pittsburgh has a tendency in the regular season to sleep on teams and decide to sporadically not show up. And I think there was definitely some of that going on. Big Ben threw, 4 or 5 picks in that game? The Jags are not going to get that many turnovers again against a playoff Steelers team. I think the Jags defense is legit, but Blake Bortles is still their quarterback. I'm going to take the Steelers pretty handedly in this one, 27-16. So I think the Jags do keep it a little low scoring, but I think they're going to have a hard time keeping up with the Steelers. And we did have agreement from Madden, 35-16 in the simulation. So now we have the Rams visiting the Vikings for the last game of the divisional round here. This is going to be a great game. We've seen this already this year. The Vikings won convincingly. I think that game was like 20-6. Jared Goff couldn't get anything going. Playing at home yet again in the playoffs, the loudest stadium in the NFL. I can attest to that. It's going to be a riot there in Minnesota. So for the Vikes, the plus 130 point differential. MVP Harrison Smith, actually, the biggest Pro Bowl snub. I mean, this guy just controls the defense, makes everything happen for that secondary. But you could have picked many players for this Vikings team. Adam Thielen really emerged. Obviously, Case Keenum. You could go with a D lineman. You could go with Linval or Everson Griffin or Xavier Rhodes. This team has some real superstar talent. Probably the best defense in the NFL right now because the Chargers did not make the playoffs. So playing at home, I like the Vikings in this game. I'm going to go Vikings 20-16. I just don't see Jared Goff with a lack of experience, a young team, a young coach. This is a little bit too much to handle. I know they have a ton of talent, but I think it's just it's not quite time for this Rams team, and the Vikings have so much momentum playing at home right now. So 20-16 Vikes. Madden actually did take the Rams 29-14. These simulations, by the way, are using my roster, so not the EA ratings here projecting these games. So that is the end of the divisional round here. So here's how the bracket has shaken down. Just 2 games left, obviously. You've got to have the Saints going to Minnesota, and then the Patriots hosting the Steelers in the game we've all been waiting for really since the season started. It's almost like Warriors-Cavs in the NBA, just the inevitable matchup, it seems, between the Steelers and the Patriots. So let's talk about that game. The Steelers going to the Patriots. We saw this earlier this year, as Charles Davis can break this down for us right here.
That Week 15 game, that crazy ending, what a game it was with New England, but that might be one that ultimately decides their fate this season.
Yeah, you're certainly right about that, because New England winning that game moved them into the driver's seat for the number 1 seed for the playoffs. So if that turns out to be the game that separates, oh yeah, because beating New England on their home field is always a challenge for anyone in the league. If you want your best shot to get into the Super Bowl, you want home field throughout.
And 2 crazy plays to end that game, the Jesse James touchdown, not a touchdown, and then the interception.
Antonio Brown unable to play because of injury. They tried to throw the ball inside to Eli Rogers, and how well coached was New England? Well prepared for the play. Made a play on the ball, popped it up in the air, interception ended the game.
And that really was a meaningful game. If this game was in Pittsburgh, it could totally change, could totally swing things here. But regardless, this is going to be a bloodbath. These are probably the 2 best teams in the NFL right now. 2 teams that can ball out on offense and also compete on defense. I don't think either of these teams have an elite defense. The Steelers were getting there, though, before the Shazier injury, but that one, obviously, a big injury. So, I think high scoring, I think back and forth, I think classic matchup here. The Madden simulation agreed as well. You'll see at the end here, Juju Smith-Schuster catches a diving touchdown, getting the ball back to Tom Brady down by a score with a minute to go. I feel like it's going to be something like that. So on either side, where the quarterback needs a touchdown to win, and they probably get it and have all the momentum going into the Super Bowl. I'm kind of droning on here, but I'm ultimately going to take the Patriots 34-31. This really could go either way. Probably the hardest game on here to pick. I mean, this is probably going to be, New England minus 2.5 or something, a pretty close game that really is going to come down to a play or two. The Harrison release could come into play here, whether it's telling Bill Belichick what the other guys are running, or maybe James Harrison actually makes a big sack or a run stuff on 4th down. He's not going to start. He's going to rotate here. But in a situation where it's going to be so close, that was a really dumb move by the Steelers. But anyway, I'm taking the Patriots 34-31. Madden actually had the Steelers winning in a high-scoring game just like this. Again, either way, but I'm going to take the Patriots. So then our last game here before we get to the Super Bowl is the Saints going to Minnesota. We saw this in Week 1, and the Vikings actually won pretty handedly, but that was a completely different Saints team. And this is a completely different Vikings team. These teams have both grown a lot since that game. I think the Saints, however, have grown more. I think Drew Brees, obviously, it's been a repetitive factor here, but when you look at the NFC and the quarterbacks in this playoff, Drew Brees is by far the best in the NFC on that side, and quarterback play is huge in the playoffs. We've seen a lot of times, with the Vikings this year, Case Keenum misses a critical third down out route that puts the ball back in the hands of the other team, missing wide open receivers. And I know the numbers are there. He's still Case Keenum, guys. I have some serious doubts about him being able to win multiple playoff games and winning a Super Bowl. Yes, the defense is great, but when you're going against a quarterback like Drew Brees, he will take that missed throw on 3rd and short and convert it into a 5-minute touchdown drive that goes for 70 yards. That's why quarterback play is so important. Third downs are so important. I've been saying this. I thought Week 17, the Vikings should have seen what Sam Bradford looks like. I know he's not as popular. He's not mobile like Case Keenum. He's not as fun to watch. But frankly, when it comes down to those third downs, I want the ball in Sam Bradford's hands much more than Case Keenum. Sam Bradford actually is pretty automatic in the short to medium throws. I think he could run this play action very well. It's similar to what I said about the Cowboys and how they should have gone back to Tony Romo despite everything Dak Prescott had done last year. While there is something to be said about the hot hand, I think you still should play your best players. And I don't know if Sam Bradford is fully healthy, but I think it could come back to bite them if they're playing Case just to ride this out and keep going with the momentum, because there's a reason Case Keenum has been on like 5 different teams in his career. I know he's been good this year, but I'm willing to go down with the ship if Case Keenum goes and wins the Super Bowl. You can prove me wrong. I'm going to take the side that it's going to come back and bite the Vikings probably in this game. So I'm going Saints 20-13, a low-scoring, feisty, competitive game. The crowd hoping to be able to go to the Super Bowl in their own stadium is going to be incredibly loud. But Drew Brees has been there. He's done it before. So I'm going to take the Saints. And Madden agrees 28-24, as we can see in the simulation here. A little Mark Ingram touchdown run at the end of the game to go to the Super Bowl. So on to that Super Bowl. Drew Brees versus Tom Brady. This is probably the matchup most of us want to see, probably the matchup the NFL wants to see. Two wily veteran quarterbacks going at it in probably a pretty high-scoring game. Legacies on the line. This would be a great game. Pretty evenly matched as well. I think offensively, both these teams are looking at top 5 to 10 offenses. Defensively, both units around the top 12 to 16. I'm picking this matchup because it is the 2 best quarterbacks left in the entire playoff race here. I think if the Patriots are going to win this game, it's going to be because of those running backs and the advantage they're going to have in the running game. Keeping the ball out of the hands of Tom Brady, that could definitely be an outcome. Or it could also be the outcome where the Patriots don't have anyone to cover Brandon Cooks in a bit of a revenge game situation. I know Marshawn Lattimore is great, but you can definitely be taken out of the game at least with Brandon Cooks running deep all the time. And then you got problems underneath. You got Gronk, who on the Patriots is going to cover Gronk. Those running backs, if this defense struggles in any regard, it's definitely those linebackers. You can see a big game from James White, Deion Lewis, Rex Burkhead, all those guys getting involved. So some interesting matchups playing out here. I am going to go with the Patriots in the end, getting, the 6th Super Bowl for Tom Brady. I'm going to go 27-21. Madden thinks this game would be a blowout. They took the Patriots big time. So
it's another Super Bowl title for the New England Patriots.
Granted, this one with a little bit of an asterisk next to it, with all the injuries this year. Would love to have seen a healthy Seahawks team, the Eagles, a Packers team with Aaron Rodgers, the Chiefs with Eric Berry, Andrew Luck with the Colts, the Texans with all of their players. So many great teams will be back next year. Next year is going to be incredible. And the emergence of Jimmy Garoppolo as well. A lot of great teams coming up. Do enjoy these playoffs. I'm going to enjoy them, not as much as the typical playoff. I think there's going to be a lot of bad games this year, to be honest. And this was a pretty easy year for me to pick. We'll see how it all plays out. Again, last year we did pretty well. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Do comment on your picks where you disagree with me. Like the video if you enjoyed. So cheers, everyone. Peace out.